Welcome to another exciting episode of the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I am joined usually by my cousin Landon, but once again, he's out. So we have our special guest co host, Andy. Welcome back, man.
Hey, how's it going? I told you, I don't think Landon's coming back. So
It's after Christmas, man.
I feel like I'm interviewing for the full-time gig right now.
Well, it's down to you and like three other people. We'll have to call you next week and just let you know.
Yeah.
We might have one more person on deck for an interview, but if he's a no show, of course that's Mark. We're talking about Mark. He
Yeah.
he still
Yeah.
hasn't been a yes or a no yet.
I like my
Uh,
chances.
yeah. So today we're going back to the '80s with a bit of a deep cut.
Remember the 80s?
That's a deeper cut. Goat Boy from SNL.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss the 1987 classic Adventures in Babysitting. This movie was Chris Columbus's directorial debut. He would later go on to direct a number of other films you may have heard of. Some little Christmas indie picture called Home Alone. These two entries in some series about some kid wizard. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't
Yeah.
know. There was one about a dad who was a cross-dresser trying to spend time with his kids. That was pretty good. Mrs.
Right.
Doubtfire.
Right. Yeah. Chris Columbus came out
He's-
swinging in
yeah,
1987 with Adventures in Babysitting.
that's right. But of course, he'd
We
already
should have we should have known then. We should have known then that there was nothing but greatness coming.
That's right. That's what Columbus Day really should have been about, watching his movies.
Right. Right.
Uh, by the time he did this movie, though, he'd already had some success as a writer. He had written Gremlins, he wrote The Goonies,
Yeah.
um, a couple other things. I think off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Yeah, definitely Gremlins because there's a reference to that in the movie. There's a patch on the little girl's backpack for Gremlins.
That's right. She's got a little
Yeah,
mogwai.
yeah.
Um, what's something that's funny too, and I don't know if you've noticed it between watching this and Home Alone, and I don't know if it shows up in other movies, but
The statue.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the lawn statue where the like a car runs into it, knocks it over, and it happens in Adventures in Babysitting. It happens again in Home Alone. Every time the pizza guy shows up, he knocks it over.
everybody does.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's so
knocks it
great.
over. The shuttle service from the airport,
Yeah,
the pizza man, the cop that comes. Yeah, we just watched, by the way, Home Alone for the first time with my 8-year-old this week, and he laughed himself silly. The second time that statue got knocked over, I kind of laughed, and he thought that was hilarious. So yeah,
doesn't
but it
take
all
much.
started it all started in Adventures in Babysitting.
Right. So I want to talk about the movie itself.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the trivia and behind the scenes stuff a little bit later. But what are some of the moments or lines from this movie that stand out the most to you?
Oh man.
I mean, where do you even start?
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, first of all, like if you haven't seen this film, this is like classic 80s. Like this is
Yeah.
it's it's amazing. It's so good. But of course, Elizabeth Shue plays this babysitter, and she's babysitting these kids, and her friend calls from the train or the bus station downtown. You got to come pick me up, but she's got these kids. What do we do? And then she goes to pick her up, and just hijinks ensue. And so the most memorable line from the movie is tied to a really great story for my family, which is I have a younger brother, Joey, and I have older siblings, and so there were things that we saw before we were probably ready to see them, but we had
Mhm.
done a pretty good job of like filtering out the profanity, and like we may have heard it. We didn't, like, my parents didn't use that language, but like we would hear it in a movie, but we did a pretty good job of like not repeating it and kind of understanding the lines there. But in the movie, uh, the the gang gets, or the kids and the babysitter gets stuck on this L train between these two rival gangs, right? And they're approaching each other, and they're getting ready to brawl. And then the babysitter and these kids are in the middle, and Elizabeth Shue is like, don't fight. And so the leader of the gang looks at her, and he's got this like knife, this little switch knife that comes up. Which, by the way, do you remember the combs like that? Do you remember like you
Yeah.
would hit it? So we had those combs, and we thought that was so cool because we had seen that kind of knife in this movie. Anyway, um, so the leader of the gang looks at Elizabeth Shue's character, and says, "Don't f with," but he says the word, "Don't f with," and then whatever the name of the gang is, and she looks right back at him and says, "Don't f with the babysitter." And then my younger brother Joey, for weeks afterwards, was walking around our house going, "Don't f with the babysitter," uh, like just full on curse word.
Dude,
Um, and
I
so
cannot tell you.
I'll
That
never
is
forget it.
hilarious because I have an exact same story. That was the first time I ever heard my little sister drop the F bomb. Like
Yeah,
we were watching this movie at my cousin's house, and as soon as those words left Elizabeth Shue's mouth, my sister repeated it as if it was the most profound thing she'd ever heard.
right, right.
And my older cousin was like, "April, you can't say that." She was 6. Oh my gosh, yeah,
I love
so
it.
great.
I love it.
It was
I
it was
love
a
it.
PG movie in the 80s. You could get away with saying the F word a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, Chris Columbus, for April and Joey's first curse words. So that's great. Yeah, and then you know, I think just the first scene out of the gate when Elizabeth Shue is at her house and she's running around singing, and then he kissed me, whatever the name of that song is. Uh, I was old enough when I saw it to be like just like madly in love with Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and then yeah, like so, could not understand at the young age that I was, I could not understand why Bradley Whitford would leave her to then go to dinner with that girl who I did not in any way think was attractive.
Yeah. She had a banana
um,
clip in her hair.
yeah, I just didn't, I did not get it
Yeah.
at all.
No, yeah. I it doesn't matter what movie I see Elizabeth Shue in from the 80s. I'm like, man, if I'd been in high school with Elizabeth Shue, I'd have had a crush on her too.
Yeah, I wouldn't have, I mean, I probably wouldn't have acted on it, nor would
Uh,
I have gotten her. But yeah,
I would have
I would
totally
have
been the
definitely had the
Brad in that
crush.
situation. I would have been like, oh,
Yeah,
she's amazing from afar and never
yeah.
speak to her.
If I could cast you as one person in the movie, it would be Brad for
Great.
sure.
One stitch, one stitch. So
Yeah,
there's a few things I wanted to
because he gets the knife in his foot
right.
on the train
Yeah.
when you don't f with the babysitter. Yeah,
Yeah. That's actually how so the gang leader throws the knife down in his foot, tells that to sends it
yeah,
to Brad.
yeah.
And then Chris grabs the knife out of his
She pulls it
shoe
out. Yeah, she pulls it out.
and holds it to the gang leader's neck.
Which, by the way, is not what you're supposed to do.
No, no,
Yeah,
he could have
yeah,
bled out.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm. All right, so I've written down a couple of or like a list of like different things that happen throughout the movie that I kind of want to
yeah,
question. First of
yeah,
all, let's talk about Sarah's obsession with Thor.
yeah. So random,
I
so
mean,
random.
I was not a Marvel kid growing up. Like
Yeah,
I was a comic book geek, yeah, but it was always Superman, Batman, the DC side of things. So I was not familiar with Thor as a character, but I think I vaguely knew that it was a Marvel kind of
yeah,
deal. Yeah. Like Spider-Man's over there somewhere, right?
right.
But to to see this movie with this little kid who was just blatantly obsessed with Thor. I remember when the first Thor movie came out, I was like, man, I bet that kid from Adventures in Babysitting is
Yeah,
psyched.
Sarah is thrilled right now. Yeah, I mean, so interestingly enough, did you know that was not the original storyline
Oh,
for that character? Not Sarah, for Vincent D'Onofrio's character. So originally in the script, when they go to the garage to pick up this car that has been repaired and they don't have the money to pay, uh, there was going to be a very masculine female mechanic, and there was the whole bit was trying to figure out, is this a man or is this a woman? And so that was cut to make it a little more lighthearted, with Sarah and the whole Thor thing. So Vincent D'Onofrio was cast, and then they were like, I guess he looks like Thor, and so that was a later addition to the script.
Wow.
And so I think like there's no way I would that the first storyline would not have been as memorable to me as a younger person watching the movie.
Ooh.
But the whole like wonder behind, all of a sudden you're like, but is that Thor? Because Vincent D'Onofrio's character, like he totally plays into it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, and then in today's society, if that would have been the storyline, we would have looked back on that as like, oh, that was horrible, and that was so misguided, and that was bigotry, that was bigotry, and all these things. And so
Sure
it's
want
like,
to pull hell up today. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so thankful that they didn't do that, because now it's like, oh, Marvel and Thor, and that's amazing. And D'Onofrio was like in Daredevil, and so there's that connection. And so
Yeah.
anyway, it was just interesting. I didn't know that, but I learned that today reading some stuff.
Um, okay, now let's talk about Brenda. So that Brenda is Chris's best friend and kind
Yeah,
of the MacGuffin of the movie, if you will.
she is. Yeah, she
There
is.
the whole quest is to go downtown and pick her up from the bus station, and then everything that can go wrong does.
Yeah,
Um, she has obviously got a problematic home life.
for
Can
sure, for
we take
sure.
a minute to appreciate that? Because she is she ran away from home, but she was also threatening to kill her stepmother
Yeah,
by putting Drano in her tab. Tab, for those of you
yeah,
who don't know, is a diet drink from the 80s.
yeah. So I mean, I want to maybe I hope somebody checks in on her
Yeah.
today. I just want to see what she's up to. Um, at this point, she's probably a grandmother. Um, Maybe just want to check on those grandkids. That's all I'm saying. Uh, I like the part where she loses, like she like switches glasses, right? Like a homeless lady takes her glasses
Yeah.
and then she can't see, and so she puts on other glasses or something. Or no, the homeless lady is like, I gets her glasses and then is finally so excited because she has glasses that are like the right prescription. And I remember like being so happy for that woman, for that homeless woman. But yeah, that's utterly terrifying. The situation they put her in as a kid. So I mean, I can think about the bus station in like the fan area of like Richmond, like that, like near downtown Richmond. I can think of the bus station, and the thought of like at the age I was at when I saw it, the thought of being alone in the bus station, terrifying. And
Yeah.
so everything that they had happen, uh, it just felt like the clock was ticking. Like, Chris, we got to get there. We got to get there. We got to get there. We got to get there.
Poor
Um,
kid's gonna die.
yeah, yeah. And so, but what's great is that when she finally does get picked up, she thinks she's had the worst night out of everybody. What's with the fireworks?
It's like controlling this.
So on our last episode, I had balloons flying behind me, and now I got
Right.
fireworks. But no, I just love it. At the end of the movie, she gets picked up, and she's like, "You guys are never going to believe the night that I've had." And they're like, "Oh, Brenda,
You don't even know.
yeah.
All right, what's something else? How old is too old to babysit? Because
How
that's something Chris
old?"
keeps saying. Yeah,
Oh,
at the start of it, she's like, "I'm too old to babysit." She's 17,
I don't.
right?
Yeah, she's 17
I
in the
mean,
movie.
I would assume as a
Um,
senior in high school that you're not too old to babysit. This is a
no,
legit way to make some money, especially in the neighborhood you live in. I
yeah,
mean, you're going to babysit for the Andersons. I mean,
no,
top dollar.
she's in prime babysitting age at that point. So she
Right.
needs to cash in for sure.
Yeah. Let's
Now, I think that Brad had a point. Like, I can't believe I'm being babysat at the age that I'm at.
yeah.
Um,
But to be fair, I don't think necessarily they were planning on him being babysat because remember at
right,
the beginning, the plan was he was going over to Daryl's
right.
house,
Daryl, yeah,
and then Daryl decided to come over there. So,
right, right.
oh, excuse me.
Um, can we talk about can we talk about Bradley Whitford?
Yes, please.
Can we talk about Bradley Whitford? So, did you know? Well, first of all, let me ask you: do you know what did his license plate say of his
So
Camaro?
cool.
So cool. Are you aware that was Bradley Whitford's actual Camaro and actual license plate?
I think I've heard that somewhere. Yeah, that was actually his car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it checks out.
Huh.
It checks out. He's the kind of guy that would definitely. First of all, I love Bradley Whitford in everything that he's in. Um, but he was that guy in the '80s. I mean, for sure, with the
Yeah.
hair and the face, and yeah, he was perfectly cast in that role.
I feel like his character on Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Andy Samberg's dad
Yeah,
is the grown-up version of Mike Toddwell.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. So,
I
but
gotta
yeah,
say
I love that.
one of my favorite scenes is when the kids break into the back of that blues club and nobody leaves this place without singing the blues.
Yeah, she's got the babysitting blues. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that whole scene is just fantastic. Like I dare anybody not to start clapping and singing along with that. I mean, it's so much fun.
Oh
And
my gosh, man.
Elizabeth Shue gave an interview not too long ago. She said she mentioned that performing Babysitting Blues was one of her favorite experiences as an actor.
I love it. I love it. How could it not be? I
Very
mean,
seriously.
how could it not be? I will tell you, there were as fun and light as that part of the movie was. They were they were again terrifying parts of this movie. When the guy, those two guys are chasing them, and they're in the high rise building, and Sarah ends up on the outside of the window at at the party her parents are at.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, terrifying. As a person who's afraid of heights too, uh, to think that that kid was on the side of that building, but that was the only way to escape those. That guy was so creepy looking, by the way. That white guy, he had this long, kind of scratchy looking face. Ugh. Yeah,
I want to know how nobody at that party saw Sarah outside that window.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, it's a dark night, and here's like a kid dressed in red and blue, just
yeah,
sidling along the window there. It's like no one notices this.
yeah.
Only the one creepy guy notices.
You unintentionally just made a connection to the Dark Knight, because in the movie The Dark Knight, a very similar thing happens. Where Rachel ends up on the outside of the windows of that high-rise building there in Chicago, because that's where The Dark Knight was filmed, and she's sliding down, and so yeah, a little connection there to The Dark Knight.
Now, so there are no uh connections other than all of the Thor references. This isn't technically a Marvel cinematic universe type movie,
Correct.
but did you know there's an end credit scene?
There's an end credit scene to Adventures in Babysitting.
There sure is.
Wait, let
At
me
the
think. Let me think. I don't know. What is it?
the very end of it, after the credits roll, it comes back to Graydon, the black dude, on the outside of the building, still standing there, crying for help.
No, no way.
It's yeah, go back and watch it. It's there. And
Oh wow.
and every time, like I don't always like sit through the credits to see that part, but whenever I see it or remember it, I'm just like, that dude couldn't have survived. There's no
Oh
way.
my gosh.
He died. He
Yeah,
was
he
left out there to
100%.
sweat it out, but he
He
died.
100% died. Yeah. Yeah, we don't talk about that, but
Yeah,
yeah, the
you
body
can't keep your
count,
PG rating
yeah,
if that guy
the
died.
body count is a little higher than they want to let us know. So,
Yeah. Any other
oh,
scenes that you think
yeah.
of?
Oh, so it was a very interesting conversation in the Berry house when the question was asked, "What is Playboy?" Because they have that whole scene, that whole thing throughout the movie where
Yeah,
she looks like Elizabeth Shue looks like the girl on the cover or in the centerfold or whatever of Playboy, and so we're like, "What's Playboy?" You know, I mean, that
right.
was we had no. My younger brother and I had no concept of what that was, and so we found out what that was later for sure. But again, PG movie, aimed at younger, a family movie, right? It's just so different in the 80s. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, obviously that was like Photoshop uh, of her. Um, I heard a story that they actually shot that like at the Playboy Mansion, and today Elizabeth Shue still has that prop,
Oh, really?
and like covets it as like one of her favorite pieces from any movie she's been in. So yeah,
It's funny.
but yeah, you have wholesome listeners, so they may not even know what that is.
I don't
So
know. Guys, it's to this day, I'm not sure what Playboy is, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Uh,
When this is over, I'll tell you.
okay, thanks. Do I want to know though?
No,
They
no, you
even
don't.
still publishing? It's all online now, isn't it?
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
so behind the scenes, originally Paramount was gonna produce this thing, but they wanted Molly Ringwald for the lead. Did you know that?
Who didn't want Molly Ringwald for the lead
And it was
in the early
1987.
days?
Yes.
There
If she
was a
was,
there was an actress cast before Elizabeth Shue who dropped out. Do you know who that was?
I do not
Jodie Foster.
really.
Yeah, Jodie Foster was cast but backed out.
Wow. I don't think I could see her doing. It's hard to picture Jodie Foster doing comedy, even though I know like she did Maverick and that was a funny movie. But like all I think of is Silence of the Lambs with her,
Yeah, for
like
sure,
very serious roles.
for sure. Elizabeth Shue. If we can just get back to how amazing Elizabeth Shue is, um,
Please, we can make a whole podcast
she
about her.
she played that role with the perfect balance of like desperation, right? Like she was, the look on her face was always like, I cannot believe I've put these kids in this situation. I've got to find a way out of this and go rescue my friend. Uh, but also confidence, like just she was just as bad as they come, and as tough as they come. And so she balanced that like so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't imagine anybody else doing it. But
Yeah. No, and it's one of those things. Like I remember when I was a kid, wishing that when the movie was over, that it wasn't over, or that there was
yeah,
another one or something. Of
yeah.
course, I know, as a movie lover at this point, I'm glad it is a one and done movie because a sequel would have just ruined it.
Well, they
Um,
did. The Disney Channel did do a series
that's
back in like
blasphemy,
2016. Yeah,
blasphemy.
yeah. It wasn't. It wasn't good. Yeah, I can't believe they didn't get a sequel. Um, can't you see it though? Can't you see like in the early '90s having like a Kindergarten Cop ish, sequel where it's some like jock that has to be the babysitter, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
I think they could have done it.
Oh yeah.
I would have watched it.
I'd watch that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Kindergarten Cop is the sequel to Adventures in Babysitting because he essentially
Smart.
goes to babysit a bunch of kids and a bunch of stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
So,
And you could also tie that in with the Goonies because it takes place in Astoria, where the Goonies took place.
what does?
Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, Astoria, Oregon. That's the same place where the Goonies was.
How about that?
Yeah.
Do
So
you
you can
think
tie
that's
all
this?
these things together.
Do you think that's the school that like Mikey and Chunk and Mouth and Data went to?
They had to have when they were in elementary
Were
school.
they
That
were they friends with Dominic?
no, because he would have been in kindergarten several years after the events of the Goonies, and of course by then they were all in middle school, early high school.
Right,
So
right, 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 right. With Troy,
yeah,
yeah, and Troy in his bucket. Dude, we should have done
It's their
Goonies.
time
We
up
should have
there.
talked. Yeah, we could have talked about Goonies for twice as long.
Oh
So,
my gosh. All right, let's see what else we got. What other trivia do you have that you found off of the IMDb?
um, it's here's a fun one. All right. So excuse me, Daryl at the frat party, ends up kissing that girl, um, Lolita Davidovich. First of all,
Davidovich.
no way,
Yeah,
Davidovich.
Davidovich.
You're saying that like you know her, like you're friends with her.
No, but I've seen her in other stuff. Like this was an early role for her. She's been in other things. Like during the '90s, she did some other stuff.
Davidovich.
Lolita Davidovich. Yeah,
I stand corrected. Anyway, in the credits, she is listed as blonde. That is her character name. But there's the balloons again. It's got to
is
be
it
something
every
with my
time you do
hands.
this?
Got to be something with my hands.
I don't know.
Anyway, she's listed in the credits as blonde. She is brunette in the movie.
Yeah,
So not sure why that happened. Yeah, not sure why they did that. Um, and then we mentioned D'Onofrio, being Thor, and then ending up in the MCU as Kingpin, which is just so funny, so cool.
it really
But
is.
what's really funny is if you only know Vincent D'Onofrio from like Law and Order: Criminal Intent or Daredevil or stuff like later in life, uh, you would not recognize him in Adventures in
No,
Babysitting
no.
because
I
he
I
is
remember
young
like
and muscular and
I think I was rewatching the movie as an adult, like maybe in my late 20s, and
yeah,
realizing is that is that Vincent D'Onofrio? Is that Dawson?
yeah,
And realizing that's who that was, and I'm like, wow, how young was he when he did that role?
yeah,
Of course, I mean, he
yeah.
already had a career going on. Guy hadn't at that point. I hadn't seen Full Metal Jacket, but
Oh, right, right,
he's
right.
in that, plays a very unhinged character in that. But man, yeah, to like I said, I had no idea that that's who that was as the Thor stand-in. But I
Yeah,
love how his character kind of melts when Sarah believes in him and says that he's her hero because she truly
yeah,
believes that's who he is.
yeah.
And then he says, gives her helmet back because hey, I got one of these at home.
Hey, kid, I got one of these at home. Yeah. So I talked the last time we recorded, which was just a long time ago, um, not 12 minutes ago, but the last time we did this, I talked about the phrase "awaken the wonder." That's one of those moments. That's one of those moments that, as a guy in his 40s, as a father of two, and as a guy that works with families and kids and stuff, I'm like, man, never miss a chance to create a moment like that for a kid, right? And so, what's his name? Dawson. That's his name
Awesome,
in the
yeah,
movie. Yeah, Dawson totally gets that, right? Like, so
yeah.
he gives up the money that he would have made for fixing the back window of the car that got shot out. Was it the windshield or the back window?
It was the front windshield.
Oh yeah, yeah. So he gives up the money for fixing that to create this moment for this kid to just allow her to believe for a little longer that this really is Thor, that heroes exist, that like the good guy is going to do the right thing. I mean, it was really just like this very sweet moment from this very tough guy.
Yeah,
But seriously, as kids, we were like, I think, I think that's really Thor.
it really is.
like,
It's really
like
Thor.
we bought it. Like we bought it. And so, yeah, it was really, really cool for a very strange kind of throwaway thing in the movie. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very touching.
yeah, no, it was. I mean, looking back, it's such a phenomenal movie. The little sister, Sarah messing with Brad the whole movie, and kind of poking fun at him, and then Daryl just being this wild card. You never know what's going to happen. I remember him putting his mouth. He put his mouth on like the outside of the car window, and it like rolled up and down. And so we did that thousands of times to try to blow our cheeks out, on the
Yeah,
window like Daryl did. Uh, yeah. So that was definitely. My parents would get so mad at us for doing that, but
Oh yeah, it leaves a horrible mark on the outside of the glass.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But no, it's so fun. It's just such a fun movie. Um, Again, one of those like what could go wrong does go wrong. In the end, the justice that she gets in the restaurant with with Mike. I mean, just you're rooting for her the whole way. And then when the college guy shows up, and don't they yell out the window like "kiss him" or something?
Yes, there it
Uh,
does.
yeah, the kids do, and you get this look. Brad gives this look like, "Well, I guess I'm really not going to be the man for her." Like, and he's coming to terms with that. And so, yeah, it's a great coming of age. Like if you said, "Hey, the main character of this movie is Sarah," like you have a great story. If you go, "Hey, the
Right?
main character is Brad," you got a great story. Uh, if it's Brenda, it's a real weird story. So
Really sad. Somebody should really check on her. Closure
yeah,
with Brenda. They just shove
again,
her out the door. I'll call you tomorrow.
Brenda, Brenda, if you're a fan of the podcast and you're watching, we just want to know you are loved, you are enough. Okay, you're safe.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. Doggone it, people like you.
Oh my gosh. Hey, do you know why Daryl's hair was the color that it was?
Uh, because he was a redhead.
So he had naturally blonde hair, and they dyed it red for the movie. And it's because the filmmakers thought that people would confuse him for Anthony Michael Hall. So they
Really?
wanted to differentiate from the Hughes movies with Anthony Michael Hall. So they end up having him dye his hair red as Daryl. Yeah, so random. And it's like there are things like that I'm like, I would have never cared about that. Like I wouldn't have thought twice about that. But there are producers and directors and studio heads sitting in a room somewhere going, "We got to dye the hair red. This is of utmost importance. We got to dye the hair red," and it's written into a contract somewhere. So,
Well, and
but I
and
never
then
would have thought
that
about it.
becomes an identifying characteristic of the truck driver with the hook for a hand. Calls him Red. He's
Yes.
he's in there. Handsome John Pruitt. They're in the they're in the truck. He goes,
How have we not
Mr.
talked
Pruitt,
about that guy yet?
Mr. Pruitt, can I ask you a question? Yeah, Red, what? How did you lose it? Lose what? Your hand. Was it in Nam?
All right. So, what was his name again? The truck driver?
John Pruitt.
John Pruitt. Okay. So, let me
Handsome
ask you a
John Pruitt.
question. Let me ask you a question. You're stuck on the side of the road. You got to get it. You got to hitch a ride. Would you rather be picked up by handsome John Pruitt or large Marge? Who would you rather be picked up by?
Nice. Well, John Pruitt proved himself to be a pretty nice guy, and Large Marge was a ghoul.
Is this the same John Pruitt that drove the kids to the house and then got his like 38 caliber out of the glove compartment and went in and shot somebody? Is that is
One,
that who we're talking about?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's reaching
That's
into
the
the
guy
glove
you want to
compartment.
ride with.
Is he getting a hand? No, it's a gun. Oh God.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that's the guy you want to ride with.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how
He's
you would feel. That's how you would
he's
feel the
protective.
safest.
He's offering to pay for my tire. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
here's a guy
Yeah.
who's he's just being a nice guy. He just gets some bad news over the radio. That was Dawson's fault. Okay, really? That's on
Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I'm just I just pulled up some of the quotes and I saw what the don't F with they were called the Lords of Hell.
Oh
That was
yeah.
the gang. Yeah. Yeah.
Here come Devereaux.
Yeah. I like when Brenda tries to pay for the hot dogs with a check. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. It's a good check. It's a good check.
She explains it like it's like 7 steps before it gets to her. Like,
Yeah.
how is that even a good check anymore? There's no
Yeah.
way.
Which by the way gave us the line, but I don't have any cash. And
You
then
don't
he
have a wiener.
says, then, then I don't have a wiener. Oh my
Oh man.
gosh. Yeah, I mean that's so good. I mean, yeah, so many good lines. I mean, to just go through some of these, I don't think your parents will ever ask me to babysit again. If they do, I'd ask them for $1 more an hour. I mean, great. Brad is just that's when Brad is getting some confidence and he's coming around to who he is and he knows like, I can talk to Chris. Like I don't have to be embarrassed or scared of her. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any other thoughts on the movie for you?
I mean, there's so many, and we can't keep going because we're out of time. But it really is a great movie, folks out there. If you're watching this or listening to this and you haven't seen Adventures in Babysitting, what are you doing with your life?
What are you doing?
Um, Seriously, it's on Disney Plus. Go check it out.
Is it
It
really on Disney
is,
Plus?
yeah,
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch it tonight.
it was, yeah. So Touchstone Pictures is a subsidiary of Disney.
I mean, listen, do you not
So,
get the feels when you see that like touchstone logo come up?
and the lightning bolt, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just some memories right there. So
yeah. So yeah, it really is. It's a great movie. It's very quotable, endlessly quotable. Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's just fun. It's just fun. Can you think of any other movies that have that similar kind of feel to it, where it's like it's an up all night kind of movie where you're facing one challenge after another, but it's an adventure, but it's funny and it's scary and like all at once. Can you think of any other movies that are kind of like that?
I feel like there's been a string of like um what's the like fun size, I think is the movie where like the girl's babysitting and she like on Halloween and she loses the kid.
Yeah.
And she's got to find the kid. I mean, so that kind of reminds me of it a little bit. Um, we just watched the Family Switch on Netflix with Ed
Oh,
Helms
was
and
that
Jennifer
good?
Garner. And it's got a similar like we time's running short. We got to try to fix this. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. It's hysterical. Like it is so funny. We laughed. My wife and I laughed so hard watching that movie. Uh, and so I would definitely recommend that. Only downside of that movie, no Elizabeth Shue.
I mean, you can say that about a lot of movies, actually.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, your favorites, Back to the Future, have Elizabeth Shue. So
Well, two of them do.
two and three.
Two and three.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was brought in to replace Claudia Wells as Jennifer Parker
yeah. I mean, why is that?
because Claudia Wells, her mom actually had cancer, and so when it came time to do the
Mm.
sequels, she had given up acting to spend time with her mom and to take care of her.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, so that's why
Yeah,
they
who
had to
knew that?
recast. Do what?
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, it's one of
what could have
those
been.
Back to the Future trivia things that I pride myself on knowing.
Listen, man, nobody goes deeper than you on Back to the Future. So, though
That's
I
right.
will
That's right.
say, I think was I the first person to show you the kid in Back to the Future 3 on the train, or did you already know that?
I already knew that. It's
Man,
so creepy.
man.
Like and there's no answer out there, like as to what that's about.
Yeah.
And I know the audience is like, what are you even talking about? Back to the Future 3, at the end of it, watch as the camera's panning in on Doc and he's explaining your future is
Yeah.
whatever you make it. The
Look over
younger
his
kid,
shoulder.
yeah, look over his shoulder at the younger kid standing in front of Clara. For some reason, he makes this come forward motion and then points to his crotch. Why? What is he
Right.
telling somebody he's got to go to the bathroom? I don't know.
We'll never
But
know.
there's
We'll never
there's
know.
no explanation on the internet anywhere. I wish Robert Zemeckis would come out and say, "Hey, this is what happened, and this is why we kept it in the film." I mean,
Yeah.
did no one catch that
Yeah.
in editing?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Next week on the podcast, special guest star, the kid from the train. Can't wait.
Yeah, let's find that kid, see if we can get him on the show. All right. Andy, thanks again for being here. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to have you back sometime, man.
Listen, if your listeners were able to make it through the twisted, journey that we just took from Adventures in Babysitting to the kid on the train to Back to the Future, kudos to them.
It's a long and winding road, man.
It
Uh
is.
Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in to another episode of the Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified whenever we post something new. Until next time, have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.